Okay, so you're new to the gym, or maybe you just want to get more confidence in the gym. I'm going to give you the blueprint for success in the most simple way I possibly can. There's a few things that I need you to know. First things first, if you have the ability at your gym to get a tour, a fitness consult, or even better, a personal trainer, that is your best bet for success. The video ends right there if that's something that works for you. If not, and you want to go at this more alone, keep watching. Okay, so this blueprint is really important because it might be your secret to success. I want you to focus on the simple things, doing them repeatedly, and doing them for a long period of time. That is going to get you the most success. I need you to come in with the mindset of performance first. This is really important because if you are new to the gym and you don't get the proper guidance right off the bat, the average time span of people's tenure at the gym might be 3 months then. People who get going with the proper guidance often last for a much significantly longer time and see a lot more success. So how you get going really does matter. And that performance first mindset makes a big difference. So that 3 months right here. In that first 3 months, the main things that change with our body is not how it looks, but how it performs. We get stronger, we get more flexible, we might reduce pains, we might increase our stamina, or our endurance, our cardiovascular capacity. All that happens before the 3 months. What takes longer is typically the way your body looks, our morphology. The way we lose fat and the way we build muscle can take 4 or 5 months, even longer than that. And we could hop into the science, but I won't bore you with that. What I'm saying is that if you come in with the performance first mindset, you're going to see some success, and you're going to get yourself to go long enough to actually see those aesthetic changes that we really want. So with that in mind, you need to think about the long term. The main way to get the body you want is probably not hours of cardio, and it's probably not super intense HIIT workouts all the time. It might be a lot simpler than that. A lot of people do the most intense thing possible, thinking they're going to get the most success the fastest way possible. If stuff happens fast, if you get success fast, it's not going to last. People who lose more than 2 pounds per week over a period of time typically don't maintain that weight loss. It is really difficult to lose fat, but it's even more difficult to keep it off. So the general rule of thumb is you want to see success slowly because that means it's going to last longer. So here's how I'm going to make it simple. I'm going to give you a workout of 5 exercises. We're going to go over reps and sets. I'm going to demonstrate how to use them. And I think that this is a workout you could do consistently for at least your first month before you start to change things up. Quick background info here. It is better for you to get going by doing less, seeing how much that less gets you before you start to add on more. What is the most amount of success I can get by doing the least amount of work? I'm going to give you a full body workout that at maximum you would do 3 times per week. Maybe that's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, at least a day off in between. But it's a full body workout that at maximum you would do 3 days a week. You'll be shocked how 1 day a week can be effective for your body. Okay, so this workout is anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour long. You could make it shorter, you could make it longer. If you add reps, you add sets, you rest differently. I'll give you some of the variations there. But it's 6 exercises. I'm going to list those somewhere here. First and foremost, to be the most important part of this all is warming up properly for every single workout. One of the best ways to do that is with a piece of cardio. I like the elliptical because it works my upper body and my lower body as opposed to the bike or treadmill. Nothing wrong with those. Ultimately, the main goal of a warm-up is to increase your heart rate, increase your body temperature, lubricate your joints, and get ready to move. It also helps to get yourself in the right headspace. So I'm going to demonstrate the elliptical. Most gyms have different variations of this. My suggestion is grab the handles first, then step on. That way you don't start flailing around. Now it's a funky machine. Getting going forward and backward oftentimes looks very similar, so do what's comfortable. Ultimately, the goal is to move. Many of them have a button called Quick Start. You'll press that, and that starts the tracking of it. That also then allows you to increase resistance. If this is your warm-up, resistance does not need to be super high. Again, just enough for you to start to feel your body, your joints, and everything working. By the end of your warm-up at 5 to 10 minutes, it'd be great if you broke a sweat. That way you know you're properly warmed up. If you don't, just listen to your body. All right, so our first resistance training machine here is going to be our push machine. Pretty much every single gym has some sort of variation of this machine. I'm going to show you how to use ours, and this might be a good blueprint for any others as well. So there's 2 things to adjust on this bench. For us, it is seat height and bench depth. Starting with bench depth, there's a lever on the side here. I'll get a different angle on the video, but if I pull this lever and let the seat come forward, that's going to make the seat farther forward, which means my arms have to be able to come farther backward to get a full range of motion. Maybe I don't want that because I don't want to risk shoulder injury. Maybe you're not that flexible. A lot of reasons you might not want that. You'd pull the lever and move the seat farther backward, and now I don't have to go as far back to get a full range of motion. Part number 2 here is the seat height. This is important because it's going to determine my shoulder starting position. We don't want to be shrugged. So I have mine put at a 2 or a 3, and what that does is if the seat is too far down and I have to reach higher, I might shrug, and that's going to put us what we call the impingement zone. you're at higher risk of injury there. We don't really want that. So you want to set the seat height up so that you can be at a shoulder position of down and backward. Now, when I grab the handles, it's really important that you have it symmetrical. So either maybe pinkies all the way to the edge, that way you know it's the same, or a thumb's distance from the center. And then with my shoulders back and down, I'm going to keep my head supported. I'm going to push the handles forward and let them come apart. This is a converging bench press. Some of them just push straight forward and backward. Not a huge deal. One more thing that's really important to pay attention to is my elbows. I don't want my elbows way up here because, again, that makes me shrug. Ideally, my elbows are downward at a point where I am at about 45 degrees between my elbow and my side at that angle. If you're not perfectly within that range, it's not like you're going to tear every muscle in your shoulder. You're just at a higher likelihood. Oh, one last thing, determining your weight in your reps. For this machine, the weight changes by 20 pounds. That's a pretty big jump that we don't necessarily want to make. So for example, if I want to go from 50 pounds to 70, that's a 20-pound jump, but I could go to 55 by spinning this wheel, and I could go to 60, and I could go to 65, and then if I want to move to 70, turn it back to 0, move it down to the next one. That's exercise number 1. Exercise number 2 is our row. This is going to be our posture correcting exercise. If we spend all day long rounded in front of us and we get kyphotic, the muscles that are often lengthened and weak are the ones on the backside. This is the thing that is strengthening them to get our good posture back. This again has a adjustable seat height and bench depth. I want to set this at a position where I have to stand up to grab the handles. That way I can keep my chest supported when I do my row. Also, typically want the seat higher than a lot of people do, because ultimately, to train my back the way that I would want us to, I want my elbows to be closer to my hips because I don't want to be shrugged up here. Again, the posture still matters where shoulders want to be down and back, and if I have to pull my hands wide, it's entirely possible for you to do things correctly by pulling it out wide as long as you keep your shoulders down, but that's a little bit more skillful. A way to make it simpler is by playing it safe, keeping your elbows tucked in tight, and pulling your shoulders down. So to do that, we want the seat higher. I want my chest supported. My feet are propped up against the foot pads here, that way I have leverage. I'm going to grab my handles with my thumbs up, palms facing each other. Again, it's just a safer, lower risk way to do this exercise, all equally effective. And then now, I might go from a bad posture position to good posture. I am pulling my elbows past my hips and pinning my shoulder blades together behind my back. If I want to get a good stretch for the upper back, I'll let my shoulder blades pull apart. I don't want to shrug though, that's where we could hurt things, so that's a little more advanced technique. Keeping my shoulders down, my shoulders pull apart, shoulder blades together. The first thing to move is shoulders pull back, elbows follow, and then hands follow. And then you're going to reverse, hands forward, elbows forward, and then shoulders forward. For this exercise, we're typically a little bit weaker than we are for that push machine, which is right behind me. So maybe take off 10 to 20 pounds on what you were doing there. You might be different in that you're pretty strong with this, which is awesome. Exercise number 3 is one of your big leg movements that emulates a squat. It is our leg press. A lot of different variations of this machine. I think this one is the most user-friendly. I'll show you a video of another one we have as well. That one gets a little bit more complex, but ultimately the fundamentals are the same. 2 things to vary on this. Number 1 is the seat angle starting here. So it is up to you what you do here. Just know that the more flexed forward you are, the more vertical the seat, the more your butt is going to work. The more horizontal this gets, the more your quads are going to work. I like to split the middle. I don't know if you can see numbers in this view, but I'll put it at a 3, and that way it relatively evenly distributes it between my quads and my glutes. The next thing you'd modify is your range of motion by moving this foot pad forward and backward. You have to be pretty flexible to get your knees up this close here, and that's within at the shortest range of motion, or I guess largest range of motion, shortest position. So if I pull the lever up, I can move it out, and now when I put my feet up, I don't need to be as tucked up against or flexed really to get my knees as close to my shoulders. Makes it a little easier to use. So the number 1 thing to focus on though to prevent injury with this machine is that pelvis. You don't want to have a posterior pelvic tilt. If I am so tight with this range of motion that my spine has to flex to get on here, you're at a higher risk of injury for your lower back, and that can be debilitating. Other things to pay attention to avoid injury here are your foot and knee positions relative to each other. I want to try to keep my knees and my toes pointing in the same direction, meaning if my toes point outward, so do my knees. I really want to avoid my knees buckling inward. It's unlikely they're going to buckle outward, but you always want to pay attention to that. Other things. For most of us, the safest position is knees behind toes. Now, that's a big thing right now where a lot of people are wanting knees over toes. Totally fine if it's right for you. I cannot say this blanket statement that this is right for everybody, but it is safer for everyone to keep their knees behind their toes. What this will do if I put my feet higher, again, is it's going to make my butt work harder, or if I want to have a lot of knee over toe translation, my knees are going way above my toes. If that's right for you, it's really going to work your quads very hard. And then in that case, it's an awesome exercise for that. You're going to lower yourself down my muscles are stretching, and then I'm gonna push myself up, muscles contracting. One more thing to pay attention to is what I don't wanna see is that hyperextension of the knee. If my knees bend the wrong way, you're gonna have a very bad day, so stop with the generous bend. All the way down, whatever range of motion you're comfortable with without a posterior pelvic tilt, and then straighten your legs most of the way. There was no significant benefit from going from here to here. My muscles aren't working all that much harder. It's not worth the risk. This is typically an exercise where you can push a pretty dang heavy weight. All right, so your final exercise for the bunch is the most important to not do wrong, to do right. Because the risk of injury is higher, but because of that, it is a very important exercise to do. It is our deadlift or our hinge. So many different variations of this, but ultimately the end goal is to pick something up off the ground effectively without hurting our back. The main thing to focus on is that pelvis. Again, similar to squat, what we don't want is a rounding of that lumbar spine. That's where things go wrong. Our goal is to maintain a neutral spine, which is not a huge extension. It is our dot stacked. If I had a dot on my ear, my shoulder, and my hip, I'd want that dot to maintain the entire time. Depending on your leg length, the ratio of your femur to your shin to your trunk, the amount your knee bends to get to the ground might be different from person to person. Here's what really, really matters. For me to consider this a deadlift or a hinge, is my goal is to move my butt backwards so that my chest sees the floor at the bottom and that it sees the wall at the top. I'm pretty flexible, so there's a lot of different ways I can achieve that. I can bend my knees a ton and still see the floor, or I can bend my knees very little at all and see the floor. Ultimately, all this is working is the backside of my leg, all the muscles included. Here's what I really want you to focus on. With my weight, a deadlift means it starts on the ground. RDL, Romanian deadlift, means that it starts from the top. Ultimately, here's what we're looking for. My butt is backward, my knees are bending so I can reach the ground. I'm gonna feel the stretch in my butt and my hamstrings. I'm not getting a rounding of my spine at any point in this movement. And then I'm now thinking, push the ground away, straighten knees and hips, push the ground away. Butt backward, hips forward. Butt backward, hips forward. Stiff-legged deadlift makes your hamstrings work harder, bigger stretch for them. A little more challenging to do right, but again, still very effective. You bring your butt in a little bit more when your knees start to bend more. Other variations of this exercise would include single leg. Maybe I hold a weight, maybe I don't. Others might be a good morning. I'm pulling my butt backwards, hips forward, stretching out the hamstrings without weight. A lot of different ways you can vary up this exercise. Obviously, it's important to get right. One of the number one injuries people see in the gym or at home in daily life is trying to pick something up off the ground and your back does not find it pleasant. Good exercise to get right. Okay, your final exercise is one everybody loves to hate, but it really does go a long way. This is your core exercise. This is a plank hold. Here's what I'm looking for. I want elbows stacked under shoulders. I want legs back, feet together, knees together. And my goal is not to have an arched spine like that or hyperflexed and rounded. It is my goal to maintain a neutral spine. You want to hold this from anywhere between 0 and 2 minutes would be awesome. The goal for this exercise might be to do 2 to 3 rounds of it. It is a humbling exercise. Time seems to move slower. It is simple, but again, if you do this right, your body will change. You can fix a lot of fundamental movement issues. You could fix a lot of pain, and you could change the way you look. It's a really good exercise. It's hard for a reason. Some simple things to consider before I wrap this up upstairs is the rep and set scheme. The general rule of thumb is 3 sets of 10. If I do 3 sets of 10 for every exercise, 5 to 10 minutes as a warm-up on the elliptical, and then my plank hold maybe 3 sets of 30 seconds or 3 sets of 1 minute, that's probably about an hour workout. How I would suggest you do things is what I'll call solo sets, where you do 10 reps of your exercise, rest for 1 minute. 10 reps, rest for 1 minute, 10 reps, then move on. 1 minute rest in between. A lot of people love to fly through exercises, doing reps super fast and then resting for like 4 seconds and then doing it again because they want to get out of here. I get it. Don't do that. You're not going to see as much success as you could if you rest longer. Rest time is vital. It is super important for strength training, for muscle building, for fat burning. Rest where you can. It will go a very long way. Another general rule of thumb is I want to train with a weight where reps 8, 9, and 10 are challenging. On set number 1, I'm getting all 10 reps. Maybe I struggle by 9 and 10. Rep number 2, I should struggle maybe a little bit more, where now 9 and 10 are still hard and 8 becomes hard. And then set number 3, I still want to probably get all 10, depending on how advanced you are. You might want to fail before that. That's different. That's a different story. For right now, if we keep it simple, I still want to get all 10, but now I'm struggling a little bit harder at 7, even harder at 8, harder at 9, and harder at 10. 3 sets, very effective. Okay, so closing thoughts. This workout right here can be very effective with you if you stick with it. The same workout done for the same reps, the same weight, the same rest time, doing everything the same can be effective to increase the gains you get from working out for up to 6 weeks. After that, you get to the point of diminishing returns where the same workout no longer becomes as effective. And there's a lot of small things you can vary up with this workout to make it continue to be effective, meaning you got to increase weight, maybe you change the reps you're doing, maybe you decrease the rest time between your sets, or you take a handful of new exercises. But just know that you could do the same workout every single day or every time you come into the gym for the entire month and then maybe 2 more weeks and still get some positive gains from it. So stick with it. It could take you pretty far. Last closing thoughts, things that I wish I knew way at the beginning of working out. Big weights do not make big muscles. Just because you're moving the maximum amount of weight does not mean that your body's going to respond that way. It gets a lot more nuanced than that, but big weights make stronger muscles. But if you're someone who's worried about getting big, it doesn't happen by accident. You got to work really hard to do that, and that is mostly diet related. That's a different video topic. But you would be surprised how if you do things slow, careful, think about your muscles with lighter weights, a light weight can be very effective. And you'll look at most bodybuilders, when they're working out, yes, they're probably ridiculously strong, but for them, they're training with maybe 60 to 80% of their 1 rep max. So by all means, for them, it's not that heavy of a weight. Light weights can be very, very effective for changing our bodies. I would love it if you sent this to someone who you know who might be uncomfortable in the gym or has been thinking about getting going and they're like, I don't know what to do when I get started. This might be the one thing they needed to get going. Who knows? Thanks and have a good day.